Spoiler alert! This video contains spoilers of episode 1 to 76. You've been warned. For many people, Dragon Ball Z played a big part in their childhoods, making it all the more exciting that, years and years later, there's an actual continuation of the story. Well, one that is not called GT. Dragon Ball Super brings the fans back to the world, shows us the characters again we love, and introduces us to all kinds of new things to give it a fresh feeling. From who I've spoken to and what I've read, the opinions on this show vary a lot. I've met people who loved it, hated it, thought it was okay, but everyone I talked to about this show seemed to have different reasons for liking or hating certain aspects. As someone who utterly loved Dragon Ball Z growing up, I think Dragon Ball Super was up to a decent, but disappointing start. But as the story progresses, it seems to be getting better and better, and now I'm completely hooked. Still, I can't ignore the bad things. Therefore, I'd like to look at my least favorite things in Dragon Ball Super so far. Keep in mind, this list is entirely opinion-based. If you like the things I'm about to mention, that's fine by me. Let's not waste any more time and start the list. Number 10. Pilaf. Pilaf and his gang are used as silly comic relief characters, but they keep repeating the same joke. He tries to steal the Dragon Balls, but has a lot of bad luck. It gets really old really fast. Pilaf was my least favorite aspect about the Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F movies, but he played a relatively small role in those movies, not becoming annoying in a way that heavily decreased the enjoyment the movies brought me. In Dragon Ball Super, on the other hand, he way overstays his welcome, till the point of me being annoyed by just seeing him show up. Not just does he get a lot more screen time, but they take the silly aspects of his character and make them even sillier. The fact that he screams a lot of his lines in a voice I find unpleasant to listen to doesn't make it any better. The show, thankfully, does make his role significantly smaller in the later episodes. This downside is mostly present in the first and future Trunks story arcs, therefore he is not higher on the list. Number 9. King Kai's Japanese voice in the first arc. Even though I prefer the English dub, the Japanese dub is good too. Some voices took a while before I got used to them, but the one that got me cringing the most is King Kai during the first story arc. My main problem with his voice acting is that it doesn't seem to matter how they animate King Kai, whether he is angry and energetic or calm and stand still, the voice always sounds neutral. This provides some really uncomfortable scenes where the voice awkwardly mismatches the animation. From what I've heard, the voice actor who always voiced Kai was in his 80s and ill, not being able to give the role the energy that was needed. Later on, he got replaced by a younger voice actor more fit for the job, which does show. Later on, his voice definitely improved, as well as the English dub provides a good performance too. A bad performance, but the result is understandable based on the underlying circumstances, and the creators took action in order to improve it. Number 8. How the Super Saiyan Blue form is handled. Don't get me wrong, I love the concept and the looks of this form. Being able to achieve godlike powers by a natural transformation is a clever idea. The blue hair gives it a distinguished look, and it's a nice nod to the anime Toriko, which is inspired by Dragon Ball Z. But in terms of the story surrounding this form and on how powerful this form feels, I think it's the most disappointing transformation of all Dragon Ball Z and Super. Let me give some examples of transformations in Dragon Ball Z. When Goku turned Super Saiyan for the first time, or when Gohan turned Super Saiyan 2, these were big, well-developed transformations. There was a lot of build-up and suspense added to the transformation scenes. But in Dragon Ball Super, it happened off-screen. Goku and Vegeta transform into Super Saiyan Blue out of nowhere. We see them train, but there's never a moment the show hints at this form being a possibility. So when they transform during the Frieza fight, it has very little impact. There's no build-up, no exciting story made up around it, it's just them saying, yes, we can do this now. Like it's made up on the spot. But even if I ignore how this transformation is introduced, I never felt like Super Saiyan Blue really was that strong. At least, not nearly as strong as it sounds on paper. A Super Saiyan transformation is supposed to be this enormous increase in power, each form being way stronger than the last. In Dragon Ball Z, when Gohan fights Cell in his Super Saiyan 1 form, he doesn't stand a chance. But when he turns to Super Saiyan 2, Cell doesn't stand a chance. It's just one transformation, but the difference in power is huge. And that is just one transformation. Super Saiyan Blue is about 4 or 5 transformations, depending on whether you count Goku's regular Super Saiyan God form. On paper, Blue should be overpowered, but it never felt like this form meant that much. For example, when Goku fights Hit in his regular form, he seems to be holding his ground fine. So when he transforms into Super Saiyan Blue, you would say Goku would be overpowering Hit like he was nothing. But no, he appears to be slightly stronger and slightly faster than his regular form. Later during the fight with Black Goku and Zama's, Blue Goku doesn't seem to be doing particularly better than Super Saiyan 1 Trunks, even though there should be a huge difference in their power. They even both get attacked by the same beam of Black Goku, hurting them equally bad. Shouldn't Trunks be severely more damaged than Goku at that point? From what I understand, Blue gives you an increase in power, but rapidly decreases your stamina, making Goku or Vegeta tire easily. It's never explicitly said in the show, but that's what I got out of it. Again, I like how it looks and I like the idea of Super Saiyan Blue, but the story surrounding this form just doesn't feel like it's as big of a thing as it should be. Number 7. Episode titles. I know this sounds like a minor thing to dislike, but I genuinely think some of the episode titles have a bad effect on the episodes. Granted, this is a problem Dragon Ball Z had too. Sometimes an episode title contains some important information about an event that takes place that episode, thus ruining the element of surprise this story element could have had. There are times where a title even sums up the entirety of the episode's content. I dare say you can look up the Wikipedia of Dragon Ball Super and can make out how the story goes solely based on their titles. Okay, maybe that is a bit over-exaggerated, but you understand my point. Ginyu returns. Thanks, title, for spoiling that. Piccolo vs. Frost. Put it all on the special beam cannon. Okay, now I already know Piccolo's strategy. Thanks, episode title. I remember even as a kid I looked away whenever the Dragon Ball Z titles were on screen, and with Dragon Ball Super I, after a while, immediately skipped to the beginning of the episode just to avoid any possible spoilers. Number 6. Frieza's sudden gain of power. This is a very similar problem as the one I have with Super Saiyan Blue. At this point, there are a lot of characters that should be able to defeat Frieza, based on his power level during the Frieza saga. But Frieza manages to catch up to the power level of Goku and Vegeta by just a couple months of training. The reason he became so strong feels really forced and illogical, like it's there just for fan service. A poor excuse to bring Frieza back rather than coming up with a clever story around his return. Frieza is, apparently, born with an immense power level and never had to train because nobody was able to defeat him. So in the Resurrection of F's story arc, Frieza trains for the very first time, and since he's from a race that levels fast, he's able to reach high levels in a short period of time. How does he train? By fighting the same weak henchmen over and over again. It's not a fight really, it's more Frieza torturing them. No intense training, testing its limits or anything like that. This doesn't make any sense. If Frieza was able to rapidly raise levels by simply fighting some weak opponents, shouldn't he be overpowered around the time Frieza saga takes place? Since he did nothing but killing weak opponents all his life. No matter how I look at it, this is a forced, poorly developed plot element. I think the Resurrection of F movie and story arc are okay, but more because it's fun to see the Z-Warriors punch some things rather than it is because of the story. Number 5. The execution of the Beerus hits Boma scene. The scene where Boma gets hit and Vegeta freaks out is not just my favorite scene from the Battle of Gods movie, it's one of my personal favorite movie moments of any movie I've seen in the last couple of years. The amount of laughter, nostalgia, goosebumps and adrenaline this scene gave me I can't compare to any other movie scene. So naturally, my expectations for this scene were really high. Even though I didn't expect it to be as good as the movie, I didn't expect it to be this underwhelming either. In the movie it was perfectly paced, not too long, not too short, and it hits bullseye. In the show, however, it's needlessly long, slow and even a bit awkward. In the Japanese dub, Vegeta makes a lot of strange noises as an attempt to sound scared or angry, but the noises he makes combined with the silly facial expressions take away the epicness of the moment. and when he finally transforms, just when you think the action is going to begin, the episode ends, which is easily the most awful timing to end an episode Dragon Ball Super ever did. I had to wait a week to see the rest. By the time Vegeta attacks Beerus, the immersion was completely gone. If someone hasn't seen Dragon Ball Super or the Battle of Gods movie, I highly recommend seeing the movie first. This scene is one of the main reasons. Number 4. The Plothole story arc. There are multiple short story arcs in between the bigger ones. Some are fun, others are pretty forgettable. But one of my least favorite was the Plothole story arc. In here, they encountered some purple fluid stuff named Komson that, when it catches you, sucks all the strength out of you and makes a replica of you containing that strength. But that's not all. Once a replica is made, the person whose strength has been stolen fades out of existence in a short period of time, unless the replica is defeated. During some forced string of events, it catches Vegeta, and they need Goku to quickly come to save the day. What I dislike most about this story arc is the reaction of the characters and the lack of intensity it has compared to how intense the scenario sounds. All of Vegeta's power is stolen, making him a weak vessel of himself, and he's about to fade from existence. Goku, by the time he arrives, only has 3 minutes left to beat the replica Vegeta, but Goku seems to go awfully easy on this replica, taking his time like there's no worry in the world. Not ever was there a moment in Dragon Ball Z or Super where waiting to go all out was as dumb of a thing to do as it is during this moment. And that's saying a lot. But it's not just Goku going easy. This concept alone sounds like something really intense, but Dragon Ball Super treats this in such a nonchalant way that it becomes annoying to watch. You would say that Vegeta almost dying would be a big thing, or the fact that his powers are stolen, but even Vegeta himself doesn't even seem to care that much. He's so calm over the fact that he's dying that it sucks all the excitement out of the story. There's no clever build-up to it either. It happens due to some very quick, forced set of events. Imagine for a second something like this would happen to the Vegeta from the Frieza saga, or even the one from the Majin Buu saga. He would be incredibly pissed off and immediately take action. This Vegeta doesn't seem eager to take action or even worry that much. It felt too out of character compared to how he's portrayed in Dragon Ball Z. The only thing I thought was clever is Vegeta's reaction to the fight of Goku and his replica. Aside from that, I didn't enjoy these pointless filler episodes at all. Number 3. Goku's stupidity when he fights Beerus in costume. Goku never was the smartest being on the show, but his spontaneous character and ignorance were part of his charm. In episode 42, however, he fell to a new low. Goku thinks Monoka is one of the most powerful beings in the universe. Well, that is actually a lie made up by Beerus. Monoka is in fact a regular delivery guy with no superhuman powers at all. This, I think, is a hilarious story element that has a clever role during the Universe 6 arc, but in episode 42 they went too far with this joke. Here, Monoka is on Earth to deliver a package, but Goku notices him and challenges him to a fight. Because Beerus doesn't want Goku to know his lie, they come up with a rather silly solution. Beerus dresses up as Monoka and starts to fight with Goku, who thinks he's fighting the actual Monoka. This entire concept is pretty darn silly of itself, and the fact that Goku doesn't seem to notice he's fighting someone in costume makes him look very dumb. But they go really far with this joke. Parts of the costume get damaged, so Beerus' arms are visible. Goku still doesn't notice he's fighting someone in costume. Goku even openly admits he senses the same ki as Beerus, which he wasn't able to sense during his first meeting with Monoka, but he still isn't able to connect the dots. Goku never felt as dumb as he is in this episode, and it's easily one of my least favorite parts of Dragon Ball Super. Number 2. The animation of the first fight with Beerus. You know I had to mention the animations somewhere on this list. The animations have their ups and downs. The colors can look gorgeous and the movements fluent. Especially up close the characters look fine. But when characters are far away, they can often look remarkably worse, even for background character standards. The faces often are strangely shaped and the body sizes aren't always correct. the most infamous example being Goku in the fight with Beerus on King Kai's planet. Boy, this was just unacceptably painful. After this episode aired, I saw all kinds of memes, social media posts, and YouTube videos about this fight showing up. There was no escaping it. The animation of the show can have downs, but in this episode it was at its worst, in my opinion. They thankfully made improved animations for both this fight and the Golden Frieza fight, as far as I know, in the Blu-ray and English dub version, which was a good step for them to take. Still, you can't undo the past, and once something is on the internet, it will always be on the internet. Before I get to number 1, some dishonorable mentions of things I don't like but not as much as the others. The silly moments of Vegeta. Vegeta is one of the most badass nostalgic characters I know, but they made him sillier in Dragon Ball Super. Still, there were only 2 short moments where he was too silly, so not bad enough for the list. Mai survived the explosion. Next to the fact that it's highly unlikely for a normal human to survive such an explosion, it was Dragon Ball Super's chance to kill a character on screen, take some risks and get serious, but no, she miraculously survives. It's a short moment and she becomes a likable character later on, so I'm able to look past it. Jacko's behavior in the Zuno scene. Zuno is the almighty who knows all, but when Boma and Jacko have the opportunity to ask him some important questions on the Super Dragon Balls, Jacko asks Boma's bust size. Not just is this a lame, pervy joke, but it's incredibly dumb of him since he wastes one of their 4 questions. In fact, he even calls Boma an idiot for accidentally wasting one of her questions. I dislike the pure unlikableness of Jacko in this scene, but I like the story behind Zuno and Boma's questions for him, so it's not on the list. With that out of the way, let's get to number 1. The worst thing in Dragon Ball Super is... Episode 68. Just this entire episode. I freaking loathe this episode. This was one of the main inspirations to make this list. Episode 68 is a filler episode where Goku wants to collect the Dragon Balls in order to wish King Kai back to life. Sounds like a harmless idea for an episode, right? But unknown to Goku, a couple of his friends have a wish as well, resulting in them fighting over whose wish will be granted. Including Android 18, Master Roshi, Oolong, Pilaf, Goten and Trunks, Gohan, and Boma. This episode is not a small dumb action by one character, not an outstandingly poorly animated episode, not a plot hole filled episode, but why I loathe it so much is because it's purely showing the characters at their most selfish and hands down most unlikable. King Kai has wanted to be wished back to life for a long time, and it was good of Goku to finally take time to do so, mainly because he's the one that got Kai killed in the first place. Just look at how happy Kai reacts when Goku tells him this. The fact that all the others don't seem to care even the slightest bit about King Kai's happiness makes them really unlikable. In fact, they even get angry when Goku tries to explain the wish for King Kai. Second, the fact that Goku reacts so casual to their attitude makes him really unlikable. Can't you be a little more defensive towards Kai's wish? Third, the wishes the others have are really darn lame, making them even more unlikable when they fight over whose wish would be granted. Master Roshi wants girls, of course. Pilaf wants to rule the world, but of course they repeat the joke again of him failing, because that joke wasn't old at this point. Oolong wants... I don't know what he wants actually, that's not explained. Gohan wants to cure his daughter's flu, which is a well-intended wish, but it's just a flu. It's not some kind of disastrous disease that has no cure, it will pass anyway. Android 18 wants a present for Krillin. She's in love with this man for many years. You think she would know his interest and know what presents to give by now. And there are so many ways she can find out what he wants otherwise, like asking a friend or even ask Krillin himself. Little suggestion. Boma wants a rare mineral that can only be found in the Earth's core. But this is something Goku can acquire anyway, so there's no reason for her to wish it from the dragon. But the worst are Goten and Trunks. They don't even have a wish. They just want to get a wish because they feel left out. Really? Those are the wishes they need to fight about? Those are the wishes they prioritize over King Kai's life, something that would make him really happy? The ending is even worse. They spend so much time bickering with each other the dragon leaves, ending without King Kai's wish being granted. Dragon Ball Super treats this plot element as comedy, like it was all meant to be a clever joke. Like you were supposed to think it's funny seeing people being this unlikable towards King Kai, and laugh because his wish wasn't granted. But this attempt at comedy heavily backfires. Even though the jokes centered around Pilaf are old, at least he's a character with bad intentions you didn't want to succeed. King Kai did absolutely nothing to deserve this, making this joke mean-spirited, and seeing him suffer like this is unpleasant. I even felt bad for Shenron, who seemed to be suffering for staying this long. I just can't believe how so many characters I grew up with became so selfish and got under my skin this badly. After this episode, I had a hard time looking at the characters the same way. Thankfully, the filler episodes after this one are a whole lot better, like the baseball episode or the Great Saiyan Man movie. But to me, episode 68 is without a doubt the very worst of Dragon Ball Super. While the show faced some bumps along the way, I think Dragon Ball Super grew to be an amazing show. Intense fights, creativity, and new likable characters. I'm eager to see what the future of Dragon Ball Super will bring. Anyway, let me hear your thoughts on the show in the comments, and thanks for watching.